The space station hung in the dark between stars like a giant metal flower. Inside its main hall, beings from 12 different worlds sat around a massive table. The air was thick with tension and the smell of different alien atmospheres mixing together. Admiral Jake Morrison sat straight in his chair, his hands folded on the table. Next to him, Ambassador Lisa Carter flipped through papers while Colonel Ryan Hughes watched the room with sharp eyes. They were the only humans in a room, full of creatures that looked down on their species. For 3 long months, the humans had come to this station. They had offered friendship, trade deals, and shared technology. They had smiled when aliens made jokes about human stupidity. They had stayed calm when aliens called them violent children who needed guidance. But today felt different. Today felt... Chancellor Vexitar of the Zephyrian Empire stood up. His lizard-like skin was bright green, and his yellow eyes looked at the humans like they were insects. He was 8 feet tall and had sharp teeth that showed when he spoke. Behind him stood 2 guards with weapons that hummed with energy. "Humans," Vexitar said, his voice like rocks grinding together. "We have been patient with your kind. We have listened to your requests. We have watched you play at being civilized." The other aliens around the table nodded. The Crystalline Collective's representative made a sound like breaking glass that meant agreement. The Vorthon Republic's delegate hissed softly through his snake-like nose. Lisa Carter looked up from her papers. "Chancellor, we appreciate the time you have given us. We hope we can reach an agreement that helps everyone." Vexitar laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the chamber. "Agreement? Child, you misunderstand. We are not here to make deals with you. We are here to tell you what will happen." He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed human colonies, Earth, and all the ships humanity had built. Red lines crossed through most of them. "These are our terms." Vexitar continued. "You will give us all your military ships. You will abandon half of your colonies. You will let us control how many children your people can have. You will accept our guidance in all matters." The room went silent. Jake Morrison felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his face calm. Ryan Hughes's hand moved slightly toward his sidearm before stopping. Lisa Carter set down her papers carefully. "Chancellor," Lisa said, her voice steady, "these terms are not acceptable. Humanity came here seeking partnership, not surrender." A sound like laughter came from around the table. The Vorthon delegate leaned forward, his forked tongue flicking out to taste the air. "Your species is young and violent. You have fought wars for thousands of years. We have studied your history. You are dangerous children who need adults to guide them. We offer you peace," added the crystalline representative, its voice like wind chimes. "Peace under our wisdom. We have brought order to 1,000 worlds." Jake Morrison spoke for the first time that day. "And what happened to the species that refused your offer of peace?" Vexitar's smile showed all his sharp teeth. "They learned that resistance brings only pain. Some learned quickly, others took longer, a few never learned at all." "What does that mean?" Lisa asked. "It means," Vexitar said slowly, "that we have dealt with stubborn species before. Sometimes a few cities must burn before wisdom comes. Sometimes a world must be taught humility, but in the end, all kneel before the greater good of galactic order." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Ryan Hughes felt the hair on his arms stand up. Lisa Carter's hands were perfectly still on the table. Jake Morrison looked around the room at the alien faces. Some looked bored, as if this was routine. Others looked eager, like they were enjoying the show. None looked like they thought humans deserved respect. "How long do we have to consider your generous offer?" Jake asked, his voice flat. 72 hours, Vexitar replied. "More than enough time for reasonable beings to see wisdom. Return to your people. Tell them what they must do to avoid suffering." The human delegation stood up. As they walked toward the door, Vexitar called out one last comment that would echo through history. "Admiral Morrison, perhaps when your cities burn and your people flee to the stars, you will understand that resistance is futile. We have destroyed 1,000 species who thought themselves special. What makes you think humans are different?" The chamber fell completely silent. Every alien in the room was watching now, waiting to see how the humans would react. This was the moment they would remember later, when everything changed. Jake Morrison stopped walking. He turned around slowly, and when he looked at Vextar, his eyes were cold as space itself. The temperature in the room seemed to drop even more. "Chancellor," Jake said quietly, "you have just made the biggest mistake in galactic history." The words hung in the air like a promise. Then the humans left, their footsteps echoing in the silent chamber. Behind them, the alien delegates began to talk excitedly. They thought they had just witnessed human submission. They thought the hard part was over. They thought they understood what would happen next. They were wrong about everything. As the human ship pulled away from the station, Lisa Carter looked at her companions. "Well, that went about as badly as it could have." "No," Jake Morrison said, watching the station shrink in the viewport. "It went exactly as we expected it would." Ryan Hughes checked his secure communicator. Messages were already waiting, coded signals from across human space. "The preparations are complete," Jake replied. "Send the signal. Let Earth know that diplomacy has failed. It's time for Plan B." "What do we tell them about the 72-hour deadline?" Lisa asked. Jake Morrison smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. "We tell them the aliens were generous. 72 hours is more time than we need." The human ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying news that would change everything. Behind them, the aliens continued their celebration, not knowing that they had just declared war on the one species in the galaxy that had never learned how to surrender. In 72 hours, they would learn why that was important. In 72 hours, the galaxy would discover what humans were really capable of when someone threatened everything they loved. The peace talks had failed, but that failure would teach the galaxy a lesson they would never forget. The secure bunker beneath Washington, D.C. was buzzing with activity. President Ellen Rodriguez sat at the head of a long table, her face serious as she listened to the reports coming in from space. Around her sat the most important military leaders. On Earth, their expressions grim but determined. General Peter Brooks spread out star charts on the table. Red markers showed where alien fleets were gathering. Blue markers showed human positions. The numbers did not look good for humanity. "The combined alien forces outnumber us 3-1, Brooks said. "Their ships have better shields and stronger weapons. In a straight fight, we lose badly." Colonel Ashley Martinez nodded. "They have studied our military history. They know how we fought our wars on Earth. They expect us to meet them ship to ship, fleet to fleet. That is exactly what they want." President Rodriguez looked tired. She had hoped the peace talks would work. She had genuinely wanted to avoid war. But now that war was coming, she would not let humanity surrender without a fight. "What options do we have?" she asked. Director of Intelligence Kevin Walsh placed a thick folder on the table. It was marked with classifications so secret that most people in the room had never seen them before. "Madam President," Walsh said quietly, "we have been preparing for this day for 20 years. Ever since we first made contact with alien civilizations, we knew this moment might come. We have options they do not know about." The room became very quiet. Everyone knew that humanity had been building defenses, but few knew the true extent of those preparations. Dr. Susan Blake, head of the Special Weapons Division, stood up. She was a small woman with gray hair, but when she spoke, everyone listened. Her team had been working on projects so secret that even Congress did not know about them. "Project Meridian has been ready for 2 years, she said. "We hoped we would never need it, but if we must defend ourselves, we have tools that will surprise our enemies." She activated a holographic display. Images of space stations appeared, but they looked different from normal human construction. They were sleek and strange, with features that seemed to bend light around them. "These are not research stations," Blake continued. "They are weapons platforms. Each one can create controlled gravity fields strong enough to crush enemy ships. We have 47 of them positioned around human space." General Brooks leaned forward. "How long have these been in place?" 15 years, Blake replied. "We built them slowly, disguised as scientific research projects. The aliens think they are studying black holes and neutron stars. They have no idea what they really do. Colonel Martinez pulled up another display. Operation Ghost Fleet is also ready. We have ships that can phase in and out of normal space. The aliens cannot track them or target them effectively. President Rodriguez was amazed. How many people know about these projects? Less than 500 across all programs, Walsh answered. Everyone involved signed oaths that carry life sentences if broken. We could not risk the aliens learning about our preparations. Dr. Blake activated another display. This one showed what looked like ordinary cargo ships and mining vessels scattered throughout space. These ships carry our deep cover operatives, she explained. People who volunteered to undergo surgery to look like aliens. They have been living among enemy populations for years, gathering intelligence and preparing for this day. The president looked at the faces around the table. These people had been planning for war while she had been hoping for peace. Part of her was disturbed by the deception, but she understood why it had been necessary. What about our regular military? She asked. Our known fleets and bases? They will fight bravely, General Brooks said. And they will appear to lose. The aliens expect to see human ships destroyed and human bases captured. We will give them that victory, while our real weapons remain hidden. Kevin Walsh opened his folder and pulled out more documents. We also have assets the aliens know nothing about. Remember, they have been studying our public history. They think they understand human warfare. They are wrong. He showed images of what looked like asteroid mining operations and deep space research projects. These facilities have been developing new technologies for decades. Weapons that do not look like weapons. Tools that can be turned into instruments of war. Dr. Blake smiled for the first time that day. The aliens made one crucial mistake. They assumed that because humans fight among themselves, we would fight them the same way. They studied our wars and thought they learned our tactics. But they only studied our public wars, Colonel Martinez added. They never learned about our intelligence operations, our covert actions, our ability to plan and wait. President Rodriguez was beginning to understand. You are saying we have been preparing for a different kind of war than they expect. Exactly, Walsh confirmed. They expect explosions and battles and heroic last stands. They will get something else entirely. The president looked around the room one more time. Gentlemen, ladies, I authorized these preparations years ago, but I never fully understood their scope. Are you telling me we actually have a chance to win this war? General, Brooks answered carefully. Madam President, if we fight the war they expect, we lose. If we fight the war we have been preparing for, they cannot win. President Rodriguez stood up. The weight of decision settled on her shoulders like a heavy cloak. She had tried diplomacy. She had offered friendship and cooperation. The aliens had chosen threats and ultimatums instead. Very well, she said. Activate all black projects. Begin Phase 1 of the Meridian Protocol. Send word to our deep cover operatives. It is time to show the galaxy what humans are really capable of. Around the table, military leaders began activating secure communication devices. Orders went out to hidden bases and disguised ships across human space. People who had waited years for this moment finally received their activation codes. Doctor, Blake gathered her materials. The aliens gave us 72 hours to surrender. They thought they were being generous. President Rodriguez walked to the window that showed the night sky above Washington. Somewhere up there, alien fleets were preparing to invade human space. They thought they were about to witness another easy conquest. 72 hours, she repeated. More than enough time. The meeting ended and the participants scattered to their duties. None of them looked worried anymore. The aliens had made their choice, and now they would learn the consequences. In space stations disguised as research facilities, weapons that had never been tested in combat began powering up. On ships that looked like cargo haulers, crews prepared equipment that could reshape the battlefield. And in alien cities across the galaxy, humans who had lived double lives for years checked their hidden supplies and waited for orders. The countdown had begun. In 72 hours, the galaxy would discover that humanity had never learned how to surrender. They would learn something else as well, They would learn that the most dangerous human was not the one who fought like a warrior, but the one who thought like a planner. 72 hours passed. Chancellor Vextar sat in his command center on the flagship of the Zephyrian fleet, waiting for the human surrender message. His yellow eyes watched the communication screen with satisfaction. Soon, the humans would bow before galactic order. Instead of surrender, he received a single transmission from Admiral Jake Morrison. The human's face appeared on the screen, calm and serious. "Your terms are rejected," Morrison said simply. "You wanted to see what humanity is capable of when cornered. You are about to find out." The transmission ended. Vextar stared at the blank screen for a moment, then began laughing. "Foolish humans, begin the attack. Show them what happens to species who refuse wisdom." But as his fleet moved toward human space, strange things began to happen. Commander Amy Torres crouched in the bridge of the stealth ship UHS Nightfall, invisible to enemy sensors. She watched through her periscope as Zephyrian ships suddenly stopped moving. Their communication arrays were spinning wildly, trying to reach their home system. "Status report," she whispered to her communications officer. "All enemy quantum relay stations are offline," came the reply. "Our team succeeded. They cannot talk to their homeworlds or coordinate their fleets." Amy smiled. For 2 years, humans disguised as maintenance workers had been servicing alien communication equipment. The aliens never suspected that their helpful human contractors were installing hidden shutdown devices in every relay station. Across 17 star systems, alien commanders were discovering that their primitive human neighbors had left them gifts. Captain Nick Johnson watched from his hidden position as Vorthon warships began spinning out of control. Their computer systems were turning against them, shutting down life support and navigation. It was not a virus. Human computer experts had spent years studying alien systems through trade agreements and cultural exchanges. They had learned exactly how alien computers worked, then created programs that made those computers believe their own ships were enemies. The Vorton ships fired their weapons at empty space, thinking they were under attack. Their shields activated and deactivated randomly. Some ships even fired on each other as their computers became confused about which vessels were friendly. Meanwhile, the proud crystalline collective was facing a different kind of problem. Their beautiful crystal ships were developing cracks along their hulls. The fractures spread like spiderwebs across their vessels. The aliens could not understand what was happening. Their ships had been perfect when they left port, but they did not know about the quantum resonance experiments that humans had been conducting near crystalline space for months. Dr. Patricia Lee had discovered that certain sound frequencies could make crystalline structures vibrate at their breaking point. The humans had been playing these frequencies into space, disguised as routine scientific research. Now, as the crystalline ships moved through areas where the frequencies had been broadcast, their hulls began to fall apart. But the real terror began when the alien invasion fleets encountered the Meridian stations. What had looked like harmless research outposts suddenly revealed their true nature. Admiral Harrison Ford commanded the defense of the Sol system from Meridian Station Alpha. He watched as a massive Zephyrian battle fleet approached Earth, confident in their superior numbers. "Target the lead formation," Ford ordered. "Show them what controlled gravity can do." The Meridian station hummed with power. Space itself seemed to bend around the approaching alien ships. The Zephyrians found themselves pulled into an artificial gravity well that compressed their vessels like an invisible giant's fist. Metal screamed as the alien ships were crushed into twisted sculptures. The few survivors broadcast panicked messages to their fleet, but those messages could not get through the communication blackout. "This is what happens," Admiral Ford transmitted to the remaining alien commanders, "when you mistake mercy for weakness." Similar scenes played out across human space. Alien fleets that had expected easy victories found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. Captain Rachel Green commanded one of the ghost ships, vessels that could phase in and out of normal space. Her ship appeared behind a Vorthon cruiser, fired once, then vanished before the aliens could return fire. Seconds later, she appeared on the other side of their formation and struck again. The aliens tried to track her ship, but their sensors could not lock onto something that kept disappearing from reality. It was like fighting shadows that could bite back. Tony Mitchell had spent 3 years living among the Neltharion Consortium, his face surgically altered to look like one of them. He had worked his way up to become a fleet coordinator, trusted, with important tactical information. Now, as the Neltharion invasion fleet prepared to attack human colonies, Tony sent new orders to the ships under his command. "All vessels, this is Fleet Coordinator Nalthek," he transmitted using his alien identity. "New orders from High Command. Stand down all weapons and prepare for inspection by human forces." The Neltharion captains were confused, but they followed. Orders. They powered down their weapons and waited. Only when human ships surrounded them did they realize they had been taking orders from a disguised human for months. Across the galaxy, similar revelations were occurring. Alien commanders discovered that their trusted advisors, their technical specialists, even some of their crew members were actually humans in disguise. The Zephyrian Empire's moon base suddenly went silent. The base commander tried to contact his forces but received no response. He did not know that the humans working in his facility had been slowly replacing his staff with more disguised operatives. On Vorthan Prime, the planetary defense grid shut itself down. The aliens rushed to restart it, only to find that their human technical consultants had quietly modified the control systems over the past year. The war that the aliens had expected to last weeks was effectively over in hours, not because of massive battles or heroic last stands, but because humanity had been patient, thorough, and invisible. Chancellor Vextar sat in his crippled flagship, surrounded by the wreckage of his once mighty fleet. His communication systems were dead, his allies were scattered, and his ships were falling apart around him. A human vessel appeared near his flagship. Admiral Morrison's face appeared on the one working screen. "Chancellor," Morrison said, "you wanted to know what makes humans different from the 1,000 species you destroyed. The answer is simple. We do not fight wars. We solve problems, and you have become a problem." The transmission ended, leaving Vextar alone with the ruins of his certainty. Around him, the galaxy was learning a new lesson about humanity. They were learning that the most dangerous enemy was not the one who fought with honor, but the one who prepared in silence and struck without warning. The aliens had wanted to see human desperation. Instead, they had witnessed human competence, and that was far more terrifying than any battle cry. News of humanity's response spread through the galaxy like wildfire. In alien command centers across dozens of worlds, military leaders watched their communication screens with growing horror. The reports coming in made no sense. On Nexus 7, the Galactic Council's military headquarters, General Krikstar of the Hegemony stared at the tactical display. Red warning lights flashed across the map showing alien fleets. Ship after ship was marked as disabled, missing, or destroyed. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "The humans had only a few hundred ships, we sent thousands." His aide, a nervous Quellan with trembling tentacles, handed him another report. "Sir, it gets worse. The Vorthan Republic is reporting that their entire home defense fleet has surrendered to human forces." "Surrendered?" Krikstar roared. "The Vorthans do not surrender." But they had. Captain Rachel Green stood on the bridge of her ghost ship as it materialized in orbit above Vorthan Prime. Below her, the planet's massive defense stations hung in space like dead metal flowers. Their weapons were silent, their crews gone. "This is Captain Green of the Human Defense Force," she broadcast to the planet below. "Your orbital defenses are now under human control. Any ship attempting to leave the system will be disabled. This planet is under quarantine until further notice." The Vorthan planetary governor watched from his palace as human ships appeared and disappeared around his world like deadly phantoms. Each time one vanished, another Vorthan vessel went dark. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. The Crystalline Collective's core worlds found themselves surrounded by human ships that had appeared from nowhere. Their crystal cities sent panicked messages to their fleet, but those messages went unanswered. Dr. Andrew Murphy's research team had made a terrible discovery about crystal-based life forms. Certain electromagnetic frequencies could disrupt their neural pathways, putting them into deep sleep. What the aliens did not know was that humans had been broadcasting these frequencies from hidden transmitters for weeks. Captain Brian Walsh materialized his ghost ship above the collective's capital world. Below him, the entire crystalline population was unconscious. Their ships drifted in space, crews sleeping peacefully while human boarding parties took control. Medical teams report the crystal beings are unharmed, his science officer reported. They are just sleeping. We can wake them up whenever we choose. Walsh nodded. Keep them asleep for now. We have work to do. But perhaps the most terrifying sight was what happened to Zephyria Prime, the heart of the empire that had started this war. Chancellor Vextar's homeworld was a fortress, protected by massive defense platforms and surrounded by moons converted into military bases. The humans did not attack these defenses. Instead, they did something that made every alien leader in the galaxy lose sleep. Engineer Sarah Williams had spent 2 years working as a civilian contractor on Zephyria's largest moon. The aliens thought she was helping them improve their mining operations. They never suspected that she and her team were slowly hollowing out the satellite and filling it with controlled explosives. Now, as Zephyrian leaders watched in horror, their moon began to crack. Not explode, not shatter, but crack in precise patterns. Pieces of the moon's surface fell away like a shell, revealing a massive structure beneath. The moon had been turned into a weapon platform the size of a small planet. Its surface bristled with human technology, all of it aimed at Zephyria Prime below. "Attention, Zephyrian Empire," came a broadcast from the transformed moon. "This is Colonel David Stone, commanding Lunar Base Alpha. Your homeworld is now within range of our weapons. Surrender immediately or face the consequences." The broadcast was received across the galaxy. Every alien civilization with communication equipment heard it. The message was clear. Humans could turn entire moons into weapons, and they could do it without anyone noticing. On distant hegemony worlds, military planners began checking their own moons with new paranoia. How many other human contractors had been working on their facilities? How many of their own defenses had been compromised? The Neltharion Consortium discovered the answer when their main fleet tried to retreat to their home system. As they approached their heavily defended capital world, they received a transmission that chilled them to their cores. "Welcome home," said a familiar voice. It was Commander Tony Mitchell, but he was not speaking from a human ship. He was broadcasting from the consortium's own planetary defense center. "You may remember me as Fleet Coordinator Nalthek," Tony continued, his altered features visible on every screen in the Neltharion fleet. "I have been managing your home defenses for the past 18 months. I thought you should know that your planetary shields are now under human control." The Neltharion ships found themselves locked out of their own system. Their home planet's defenses targeted them as hostile vessels. They could not go home, and they could not fight back. Similar revelations occurred across alien space. The Galactic Council received reports that made their worst nightmares seem pleasant. Humans were everywhere. They had been planning this for years, maybe decades. On Regulus Station, the Quellan Intelligence Service tried to assess the damage. Director Velhan looked at reports from across the galaxy with eyes that had stopped blinking. "How many humans are hidden among us?" he asked his analysts. "We do not know," came the reply. "They could be anyone. Your aide could be human. I could be human. You could be human." The paranoia spread faster than the military defeats. Every alien looked at their neighbors with suspicion. Every trusted advisor became a potential enemy. Every routine worker might be a spy. The psychological warfare was more effective than any weapon. Alien societies that had been stable for centuries began to fracture as citizens reported their suspicions about each other. Dr. Helen Carter, disguised as a Quellan researcher, watched from her laboratory as the alien government collapsed around her. She had been studying their biology for 3 years, pretending to help them develop new medicines. They never suspected that she was actually learning how to neutralize their entire species if necessary. "Phase 4 is complete," she reported through her hidden communicator. "Alien command structures are breaking down. They cannot trust their own people anymore. The galaxy's great powers were learning that warfare had changed. This was not about fleets and battles and glorious last stands. This was about patience, planning, and the slow application of pressure until your enemy's entire civilization cracked. On Earth, President Rodriguez received the reports with mixed feelings. She had wanted peace, but the aliens had chosen war. Now they were learning why that had been a mistake. Casualty reports, she asked. Minimal on both sides, General Brooks replied. We disabled their fleets without destroying them. Their crews are mostly unharmed. We could wake up the sleeping crystal beings tomorrow if we chose to. The president nodded. Even in war, humans had tried to minimize suffering. But the aliens had mistaken that mercy for weakness. What about their leadership? Broken, Colonel Martinez reported. They do not know who to trust, what to believe, or how to fight an enemy they cannot see coming. The galaxy had wanted to see what humans were capable of when threatened. Now they knew. They had learned that the most terrifying human weapon was not technology or numbers. It was their ability to make their enemies doubt everything they thought they knew about the universe. 6 months after the failed peace talks, the same space station orbited the same star. But everything else had changed. The Galactic Council chamber that had once echoed with alien arrogance was now filled with nervous whispers and fearful glances. Admiral Jake Morrison walked into the chamber with the new human delegation. The same aliens who had dismissed him 6 months ago now watched his every move with careful attention. Some looked away when he met their eyes. Chancellor Vexitar sat in his chair, but he looked like a different being. His bright green skin had turned pale, and his yellow eyes darted around the room constantly. His empire's fleet was scattered across the galaxy, most of it under human control. His moon had been turned into a weapon pointed at his own homeworld. The Vorthon delegate hissed softly, but it was not the sound of amusement anymore. It was fear. His people's home system was surrounded by human ships that could appear and disappear, at will. His own government had collapsed when they discovered that half their advisors were disguised humans. The Crystalline Collective's representative made sounds like breaking glass, but these were not sounds of agreement. They were sounds of distress. Most of his people were still sleeping under human control, and he did not know when or if they would wake up. Ambassador Lisa Carter took her seat at the table. She was the same woman who had endured months of alien condescension, but now the atmosphere was completely different. Every alien in the room hung on her words before she even spoke. Gentlemen, she began, we are here to discuss the future of galactic relations. President Rodriguez appeared as a hologram above the table. Her image was clear and steady, and when she spoke, the chamber became absolutely silent. 6 months ago, you offered humanity terms for surrender, the president said. You demanded that we give up our ships, abandon our colonies, and accept your control over our people. You said we were too young and violent to govern ourselves. The alien delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. None of them tried to interrupt. You told us that resistance was futile, President Rodriguez continued. You said you had destroyed 1,000 species who thought themselves special. You asked what made humans different. Chancellor Vexitar tried to speak, but his voice came out as a croak. President Rodriguez, we may have been too hasty in our judgment. Hasty? The president's voice remained calm, but something in her tone made the aliens lean back in their chairs. You threatened to burn our cities and make our people flee. That was not haste, Chancellor. That was a choice. General Crickstar of the hegemony cleared his throat nervously. Perhaps we could discuss new terms, more reasonable terms. President Rodriguez looked at him through the hologram. The war is over, General. Has been for months. We won. The question now is what happens next. The statistics were terrifying for the aliens to consider. Without firing a single shot at civilian targets, humanity had neutralized 70% of the galaxy's military capacity. Trade routes were under human control. Communication networks answered to human operators. Entire alien fleets had surrendered without fighting. But perhaps most disturbing of all, nobody knew how many humans were still hidden among alien populations. Every alien leader now wondered if their trusted advisors, their technical staff, even their family members might be disguised humans. "What do you want from us?" asked the Quellan representative, his tentacles trembling. Ambassador Lisa Carter opened a folder and placed documents on the table. "The same thing we wanted 6 months ago: partnership, equal voices in galactic affairs, mutual respect and cooperation." The aliens stared at the documents. They were the same terms that humanity had originally proposed, the same offers of trade agreements, technology sharing, and peaceful coexistence that the aliens had rejected with laughter. But after what you have done to us," Vextar stammered. "After what we have done to you." Admiral Morrison spoke for the first time. "Chancellor, let me remind you of what we have not done to you." He activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Green areas marked human-controlled territory. Red areas showed alien worlds. "We have not bombed your cities," Morrison said. "We have not invaded your planets. We have not killed your civilians. We have not forced your people to flee their homes." The display zoomed in on various alien worlds. "Your populations are safe. Your economies are functioning. Your cultures are intact. We have taken control of your military assets, but we have harmed no one who was not actively trying to harm us." Dr. Susan Blake appeared via hologram next to the president. "The Crystalline Collective's population is sleeping peacefully. We can wake them up anytime you wish. The Vorthan defense networks are offline, but the planets they protect are untouched. The Zephyrian moon has been modified, but no Zephyrian has been hurt." The alien delegates looked at each other with growing understanding. Humanity had won a complete victory, but they had chosen mercy over vengeance. They could have destroyed entire civilizations, but they had not. "Why?" asked the crystalline representative. "Why did you not punish us for our threats?" President Rodriguez answered simply, "Because punishment was not our goal. Peace was our goal. It still is." She gestured to the documents Lisa Carter had placed on the table. "These are the same terms we offered before: equal partnership in a galactic community, shared knowledge and resources, mutual protection and cooperation." "And if we refuse again?" Vextar asked weakly. Admiral Morrison's expression did not change. "You are free to refuse, Chancellor. But you should understand your position clearly. Your fleets are disabled. Your communications are controlled by us. Your governments depend on our cooperation to function." He leaned forward slightly. "We are offering you partnership as equals. That offer comes from strength, not weakness. You can accept it, or you can try to rebuild your military power and challenge us again in a few decades." The implications were clear. The aliens could choose cooperation now, or they could spend generations trying to match human capabilities while remaining under human oversight. "We need time to consider," said General Krickstar. "Of course," President Rodriguez replied. "But while you consider, remember this: we wanted peace 6 months ago, and we want peace now. The difference is that now you understand what the alternative looks like." The voting began immediately. One by one, each alien delegation accepted humanity's terms for equal partnership in the Galactic Council. The vote was unanimous. As the session ended, the aliens hurried to establish cultural exchange programs. They wanted to study humanity, to understand the species that had rewritten the rules of galactic politics overnight. Chancellor Vextar approached Admiral Morrison as the chamber emptied. "Admiral, how long have your people been planning this?" Morrison considered the question. "Chancellor, we started preparing for this conversation the day we first met aliens who thought they were superior to us. We hoped we would never need those preparations, but we were ready when you forced our hand. And now? Now we build the future together," Morrison replied. "As equals." Later, in private communications across the galaxy, a new phrase began to circulate among alien species: "Never make the humans get creative." It became the most important rule of galactic diplomacy. The peace talks had failed 6 months ago, but they had succeeded today. The galaxy learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their weapons or their technology. It was their refusal to accept that any problem was unsolvable. And in the depths of space, new human projects were already beginning. because humans never stopped preparing for challenges that had not yet been imagined. The galaxy was at peace, but it was a peace built on understanding. Everyone now knew what humanity was capable of when threatened, and they would never make the mistake of threatening them again.